listeners, if you can hear us right now, you have officially been subscribed to our streaming service, the Podcasa Bonita Plus.
Yes, and since there's only about 3 of you, we are going to require, like, $1 million a month, just to keep us afloat, you know?
Just to keep us afloat. And we feel like at that rate, we could probably shell out 3 videos a year instead of 2.
Yeah.
Maybe like a top 10 list again, if we're really feeling motivated to do it. Yeah, remember we used to do those, Rachel?
Remember when we used to do anything?
Other than have jobs and work
and cats.
Oh yeah, you gotta remember. Now we both have cats, so that takes a chunk. You know, South Park Podcasa Bonita has to take a back seat to my obese foster cat. Well, hello guys, welcome back, all 3 of you, to Podcasa Bonita, where we're gonna talk about the streaming wars, the newest Paramount Plus, both Part 1 and Part 2, that aired on Paramount Plus, ironically.
Yes, I am very excited. Do you want to get started with Part 1?
No, I think we should do Part 2 and fuck around. Yes, Rachel,
okay, all right.
I'd like to start at Part 1.
Well, it aired on June 1st, 2022.
All right. Courtesy of the South Park Archives Wiki, the synopsis includes, in South Park The Streaming Wars, Cartman locks horns with his mom in a battle of wills while an epic conflict unfolds that threatens South Park's very existence. A little bit ambiguous, but
yeah, that's kind of vague.
We're going to talk about every single detail incorrectly like we always do.
Yes. I guess just to get started, Cartman is being such a bitch, but I did like his melodramatic musical number about living in a hot dog.
Living in a hot dog. So, for those who haven't watched the streaming wars, which I can't necessarily blame you because it really is only on Paramount Plus, which is, you know, ironic considering this. We actually, both Rachel and I went in blind for these 2 specials. We, watched a couple of things here and there, but we didn't look up reviews or anything. We also work, full-time. That part was not a joke. We both, were actual 25-year-olds and have actual jobs. So, we watched these. I just finished watching them actually yesterday as we're recording this, which is like a good while afterwards. Apologize in advance for very likely the choppy editing that Rachel will no doubt have to do because my internet sucks. But that's what happens when you live in a shitty apartment and get the shittiest internet possible.
At least it's not a hot dog.
At least, you know what? I don't live in a hot dog, but at this point, it'd be a really nice location. I won't lie. The location's not bad.
I have to say, I loved the visual of Cartman taking a shower and then using ketchup and mustard as his shampoo and conditioner.
Absolutely. So, since this one's not as readily available legally, I do kind of want to give like a basic sort of synopsis about Part 1, talk about the main plot, because Rachel and I both went into this pretty blind, because, I work full-time. We both work full-time. That part was not a joke. We're both adults and we work full-time, so we watched these later. Then we watched these a little bit later after airing, and I really had no idea what to expect, but I was very pleasantly surprised with, when you think streaming wars, immediately all of us go to talking about, multiple streaming services, the irony there, which it does, but little did we know that this was actually going to be talking about literal water streams and things like that, so very fun.
Yeah, speaking of, I loved all of the water puns in these few episodes.
So, for those who haven't watched the specials prior, this takes off, this takes exactly right out of the storylines from the previous season, the shorter one that had aired, that we, reviewed So go back and watch those if they're not really good synopsis of what happened either, so you may not get caught up at all, but, it'll give us some views. So, it takes place right after, you still have Tegrity and Credigree farms back to back, and we see the return of Man Bear Pig, which is what I was the most excited about. So Man Bear Pig clearly is climate change, and it is affecting basically the entire state. But in Denver, there's a drought due to Man Bear Pig, and like everything else in free market capitalism, everybody tries to capitalize on tragedy. So yeah, it's literally streaming wars about water supplies.
Yes.
So, yeah, maybe I should have just stuck to the synopsis. That wasn't very good.
I was just gonna be like, yeah, Randy and Token's dad are fighting. Cartman gets fake tits.
Just the regular.
Randy's a full-on Karen now.
Yes. So, this, I've got to say, this really, despite it having a lot of the continuity changes that we've seen previously, this writing and this story building felt like old South Park. It felt like original South Park, which I think a lot of other fans and viewers will agree. This past season, I've seen a lot of people say, like, oh, this felt like old South Park. In many ways it did, but I feel like this is the best of what we've had and the closest of what we've had to the golden years.
Yeah.
Who knew? It turns out you just needed to be funded by a huge streaming service. You need to be bought out.
Right.
Like, that's all they needed.
You just need to completely sell out in order to get back to your creativity core.
Exactly. So, this was a very long special. It was really nice having all that time, to watch things. They actually had time to build a fully developed story in 2 parts, but, didn't leave me with any weird cliffhangers. But no, part 1 immediately roped me in. It is joke after joke after joke, which, I mean, to me is like the purpose of South Park in many ways, is to be funny. And I don't always laugh out loud during shows. This is definitely one of this whole time I was laughing just about through every joke. So I was very happy to report on that. But take it away, Rachel. Give us some insight on those notes that you take that I still have yet to do.
Some of my juicy notes. Sure. I commented that I loved the storyline with Stan and Tolkien running a little grift on their dads. I thought that was I was like, good for them. Because their dads are both being insane. And I loved one of my favorite scenes of the whole thing is like the montage of them building the boats, and then fucking WAP is playing over it.
Yes, just straight up. Paramount Plus loaded them up with the money for this, because the soundtrack that they had for both episodes, it was full of, I'm sure, some expensive songs. Like, it wasn't a cover of Wet Ass Pussy. It was the full. They shelled out some big bucks to get the rights to that song.
The thing is that I was aware of that song, but I'd never actually sat down and listened to it. So for like a full 30 seconds, I was like, who's rapping right now? Is that like Cardi B? And then it said Wet Ass Pussy, and I was like, oh my god, it's the song.
I loved that. I mean, a little weird with, underage children, listening. But, we've seen and heard way worse. So, not even fazed by it anymore. These
underage children on the show that you're defending have done worse things to each other.
Way worse. They've done far worse things. But, yeah, I felt that the kids felt like their regular self again. And I love that, Stan and Tolkien don't really care about their parents' feud. They still hang out regardless, and I love that, because that's just kids. They don't see it as that petty bullshit drama. And Stan knows his dad is being a Karen, which I think would be a great transition into one of the funnier plot lines that actually kind of surprised me.
Yes, I really liked Randy being a Karen and then it being a commentary on how his character has devolved, but I also really loved just generally how people just started calling him that, and he didn't understand why. And then he had to call in Shelley, who's like his meme consultant, I guess, and be like, why is everyone calling me Karen?
It's a derogatory term for a white woman who is very entitled. My Shelley's pretty good, actually.
Yeah, I know, they should hire you to be a voice actor.
Right? Oh my gosh, they should have hired us for a lot of things. We'd be great. I think, you know what's funny? We'll talk about this later because it'll get into the other parts. But, honestly, I feel like maybe Matt and Trey have watched our content because a few pieces of commentary on Randy himself, seems a little familiar, if I'm being honest.
I mean, I don't want to go so far as to presume that 2 of our 3 listeners are Matt and Trey themselves. I know we think of ourselves as pioneers on the Randy hate train, but a lot of people, I think, are getting fed up with his character.
Oh, yeah. I would say it's about, I don't even know if it's 50-50 anymore. Casual viewers love Randy. Us insane fanatics, the right ones, have the right opinion on Randy. So, it's give and take. But, no, I genuinely don't think, I'm glad that they don't listen to us. So, I'd be absolutely batshit embarrassed.
Oh, God, I know.
But, no, I really love the Karen plotline, and the thing is, I will mention this at first, when they first mention the name Karen, they're not, it's kind of ambiguous, they're not really saying who exactly it is, and I knew in the back of my head, because it's used so frequently, especially within my line of work, I mean, all we do is deal with Karens. That's right. Yeah, there's going to be one in my store every single day. But I did have this little glimmer of hope for a split second that it was Kenny's little sister, Karen. But
not a chance.
Not a chance. Kenny's barely in this. We're never going to see Karen again.
Also, just because you're named Karen doesn't make you a Karen necessarily.
No, it doesn't. Especially when you're like 5.
Yeah.
But I will be honest, I was a little apprehensive about the Karen plot line, not because I don't love ripping on Karens. That, with my job, that is my favorite thing to do, is that oftentimes it gets misused a lot by the people who are Karens.
Right.
They've tried to Karens have tried to reclaim the term Karen, and they're like, oh my gosh, you won't bend to my every whim, you're the one being a Karen right now.
Yeah.
So I've seen it used where people try to reclaim it, so I was worried, like, oh great, is it going to be one of those overused? No, it was absolutely spot on. It was incredibly accurate. I'm very happy that it was really only Randy that got depicted as this character. It wasn't like an epidemic of a bunch of other characters.
Yeah.
I feel like that would have been overdone. The fact that Randy was the sole powerful Karen really allowed it to give that really proper contrast with regular people to show what a real Karen actually is. I
gotta say, as 2 old dudes who were not really on social media, I was very impressed that Matt and Trey, not only got, the meme-ification of Karen, but, what it means, how to depict it. They, really were spot on with it. I was like, oh work. Good for you.
Oh, yeah. But in general, I really feel like this writing team that they've had these past couple specials have really been on a ball. They've really been on a roll. I really like it. I know, you know what I even noticed too, so whenever Randy would have a Karen fit, it would always be filmed, and he'd always have his hand on his hip. They'd specifically animate at certain angles from the point of view of somebody's filming, of his hand on his hip, exactly like a Karen. I swear they would take specific videos shows.
I feel like they definitely watched a bunch of caring videos, like, as research.
Oh, I'm sure they did, and, like, rotoscoped, because they were, I mean, his positioning was to a T. I loved it. So, you know, I was a little apprehensive, thinking, like, oh, great, it's going to be overused and used incorrectly, but no, they were spot on. That's it, the entitlement is a thing. And, it, you know, of course, it's like, let me speak to the manager! That was, you know, that part was probably the most, like, yeah, that's, you know, a little overdone, but everything else was hilarious. So I felt seen. I really felt seen as a primarily retail worker.
Yeah, totally. Randy was very funny in this episode, for the most part. But I think I liked Cartman's storyline the best.
Oh, absolutely.
I want to talk more about Cartman, which absolutely. I never thought I would say that.
Cartman is now living in a hot dog because, you know, housing crisis, all that jazz.
Oh, I know, and I was like, you know how people who watch sports, like, yell at their screen and stuff and go nuts? That was me watching this episode where Cartman's like, it's not my fault that my mom lost her job and we have to live in a hot dog. I'm like, yes, it is! It's literally your fault!
Your fault! It is exactly your fault and everything. And you know what? Leanne Cartman got a little character development.
I was so proud of her. I was like, good for you, girl.
Living in a hot dog. It didn't matter when her son killed people and fed them to their son, or when...
to be fair, I don't know if she knows about that.
You know, she could be she was pretty neglectful prior to then. It's funny, you know, I'm surprised Leanne doesn't already have fake tits. Maybe her body's
She might. She's like, I don't want to get any bigger.
But, you know, we've seen less sluttiness of Leanne Cartman.
Yeah, she's much more just like a mom now. She is very much,
I mean, your mom can be a slut. So,
yeah, totally.
I mean, not slut-shaming any moms out there. But, yeah, it's kind of fun to see her take a stand and not give in. Like, this was her final straw, and it was nice to see that. You know, it didn't feel out of character for her. She still talked to him the same way. She just didn't give in to it. So it was fun to see that. But
and I really liked the way that their characters interacted this episode, because you can see Cartman trying to get his way and bully her, and then she like gets around it by saying, I don't want this, but also we couldn't even afford it if I did. And it was so Cartman for him to like willfully misinterpret that and be like, oh, if I just get the money, then she'll do what I want.
Exactly. Not even thinking for a second like, oh, if we just get the money, then we can move out of this place. But, you know, that's the funny part about...
One of my favorite lines is when he's arguing with Leanne in the doctor's office, and then he's about to storm out, and he goes, Doctor, keep those tits on ice.
Exactly. Which we'll talk about the other plot line, one of the major ones with Stan and Tolkien, and then later a couple of the other boys starting the little popsicle boat business, creating the boats for the other streaming services, which that's really funny. It's supposed to be like, you know, the content of it's a representation of content and everything, where, you know, Cartman gets on board now because the boy, he tells the boys that his mom needs them.
Yeah, he manipulated them all.
Which, I mean, to Cartman, he thinks that's what's going to fix everything.
And it's kind of funny because that type of, it's very frustrating on one hand as a viewer to watch, like, Stan and Kyle and all these boys, like, constantly fall for Cartman's shit over and over again. But at the same time, I'm like, but if they weren't as, like, empathetic and caring as they are, then I wouldn't love them as much as I do, you know?
Exactly. So
it's like...
It was nice seeing other characters spotlighted, and by other characters, I mean Tolkien.
Yes.
And Stan. So Stan got a huge major role in this, which you would think wouldn't be so rare nowadays, but is pretty rare. You know, it's classic as a Kyle fan to say, like, oh, I wish we had more Kyle in this, which part of me does, but I'm being honest, the story did just fine without him being a major focal point.
Yeah, I mean, I missed Kyle too, but I did like his little moments in here, like when Stan is asking him if he wants to help. And then Kyle asks, like, before he agrees, he's like, are you having Cartman help? And Stan's like, no, he'll just fuck it up. And Kyle's like, okay, I'm in.
So I think all the characters that were utilized fit their roles, and it didn't just seem like characters were wedge-horned into a plot line that didn't work for them just for the sake of using those characters. Cartman felt like Cartman, and I love that Stan and Tolkien were the perfect puppets for this plan. Yes. They really were. We had a little extra Butters. Butters tagged along. But I think he's a good foil for just about any group because of his naivete and how oblivious he is to things. So.
Plus, I really loved Butters' role in this little team, because it kind of added a little bit of like innocence, where he's like his job is to eat all the popsicles instead of just telling them to buy a thing of like popsicle sticks.
I love it. You see, and Butters is often used as, in a way, he's kind of, he works similarly like Kyle does, where he is the voice of reason, but he doesn't realize he's the voice of reason. Where Kyle does his speech, I learned something today speech. Kyle's addressing a specific issue, and he knows the intent. Butters, on the other hand, when Butters resolves an issue, he doesn't realize he is resolving the issue. That's not his intent. He's just going off on a topic that he thinks is totally unrelated, and he ends up fixing the issue. We see this in like the Raisins episode where he talks about feeling bad, that solves that plot line. And here, he's the one talking about, they don't give a shit if the content is good or not. You just have to churn it out.
Right.
They'll take it no matter what. And, we see that. We see that in some of these bigger platforms.
Yeah, totally.
Not Paramount Plus, though, because this is really good.
I just have to say, in defense, I think it's Butters that Cartman constantly yells at, but in defense of Butters, like, those tits are fucking massive. Like, I was staring at them, too.
Oh, yeah.
Cartman's tits.
I love that Cartman actively, like, he went through it, and that's such a Cartman thing to do. He will cut off his nose to spite his face.
Yep.
He will actively harm himself to get what he wants.
And I just love that he's, like, throughout the whole 2 episodes, he's like, hey, my eyes are up here, blah, blah. But I just I'm like, I know the second he goes back to being a boy, he's gonna have, like, no self-awareness about what that experience was like.
Exactly, yeah. I loved, and it's just classic South Park to see something childish and immature be something that funny, Yes.
Also, I loved
animation. It's moving on this just fat little 8-year-old, 9-year-old.
Also, I loved at the end of this episode where Cartman goes to school with the fake tits and Kyle doesn't believe him that they're real. And in order to prove it, Cartman brings over Kenny to feel them. Because I guess Kenny is the expert on fake tits.
Absolutely. They're real fake tits. That was my favorite part. They're real fake tits.
Yeah, I love the oxymoron there.
It was very funny with that plot line. So of course we're gonna think fake tits on a 10-year-old is so funny. But yeah, we had a lot of little things like that, and those plot lines didn't get in the way of the major thing. I really liked that there wasn't too much going on within the story.
Yeah, it was pretty self-contained, I thought.
It was self-contained, and each joke, I think, had a purpose. It had a purpose for why it was there. We'll get into it in the second part. There's only, like, one running gag that I felt was, like, a little bit overdone, but that's in part 2, so, no. Part 1 had me laughing. I was so excited to watch the second part. And what other notes do you have for part 1? One
thing is that can you believe that not only we got to see the PP water park guy, but he was the villain and he was hiring Man Bear Pig to kill people?
Exactly.
I did not see that coming.
I was so happy to see the return of, and it is good, I guess, for newer viewers. Honestly, I don't think anything is good for new viewers, though, at this point. You have to know so much continuity of the show now, especially.
Oh, I know. It's all inside jokes at this point.
It is all inside jokes right now. But it was good to see PP again for PP's Waterworld. But yeah, I think he was a well-executed villain. It was fun to see this character that only showed up in one episode prior, but he's back. That was fun, and to make him a villain was great too. You know, there's not enough attachment from that one episode for it to be polarizing to viewers, but It is a great nod to previous episodes. So
okay, before we move on real quick, can we talk about Tolkien's dad almost getting fucking murdered at the end of this? Because I could not believe it. I was like, what?
Absolutely. Like, that's what really worried me. I'm like, oh, great, of course they're going to kill off the only other black guy.
maybe that's why they didn't.
Right? They're going to get canceled.
Yeah.
But, what was it? There was another, like, canceling joke that was well executed, but I guess it wasn't that well executed because I don't remember it.
Right. It wasn't memorable enough, I guess.
But yeah, overall, part one was, I mean, hilarious. It set up really well. I would have been pissed off if I had watched it and then realized that I had to wait for part two. And
same. Like, yeah, I'm glad I waited now.
Hey, procrastination does work sometimes. Does work out for the better sometimes. But, yeah, I think we can go ahead and move on to part two.
Yep. It aired July 13th, 2022.
And the synopsis reads, in South Park Streaming Wars Part 2, a drought has brought the town of South Park to the brink of disaster.
That's all it says.
It is one sentence.
Okay, well, this episode starts with the boys in court. Because Cartman is suing his mom for making him get fake tits or something. But the whole thing was so ridiculous. But I loved that all the other boys were, like, so humble and like, almost a little scared on the stand. Like, yes, Your Honor, like, answering the question. And then Kyle is just pissed. And the judge is like, well, where'd all the money go? He's like, it's in Cartman's fucking tits. Like, I fucking love Kyle.
You know what's funny? I love Kyle, and he probably isn't fazed by it because his dad is a lawyer, so...
Right,
I mean, he's probably used to it, or whatever. He's also used to people being a dick, because Gerald's also his dad.
Plus, he's used to Cartman being a dick, because didn't Cartman one time try to sue him into sucking his balls one time?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, oh my gosh, the amount of times that Cartman should genuinely have appeared in court.
Yeah, I know. I just say, though, I love that this court plotline just went nowhere, and the judge was like, you're all a bunch of shitheads, get out of my courtroom. He just kicked them out after 5 minutes.
That was really fun. It was a good way to kind of reintroduce a few conflicts that were occurring, mainly two of them, which is both of them being Cartman's tits.
Yes.
But no, we get a lot more serious. There's a little bit more gore, and there's a little bit more Man-Bear-Pig lore.
Yes, there is.
Which I guess we didn't talk about in the previous installment about the twist villain as much, or Man-Bear-Pig's role. So Man-Bear-Pig's basically working for these corporations, which is very... I was like, that is really, really clever. That's clever, because corporations are essentially fueling climate change and everything.
Yeah,
and they're always, their basic attitude is just like, fuck them, I'm going to have enough money to survive this, so...
Yep.
It was very brutal, but they didn't hold back, so...
Oh, yeah,
very
totally.
much appreciate it. It was funny, too, to see Man-Bear-Pig in a little, like, mobster outfit. I mean,
yes.
I thought that was kind of adorable. But we get a little bit more lore, because we find out that Man-Bear-Pig has a family.
Yes, can we talk about Pig Bear Girl for a minute?
Honestly, I kind of don't, but sure, I guess we can.
I
guess we can.
I don't know, just when I first heard them say the name, I cracked up, but I actually wish that she, like, looked grosser. Like, she's kind of just like a woman who's really hairy. I I wanted her to look like Man Bear Pig, but with, like, huge fake tits. Like, they could have done it with that plot line, too. Like, brought the other one around.
I know. You see, I thought maybe with it, because she just looked like a regular chick with a pig nose.
Yeah.
That was it. But I thought it would have been kind of funny. If they had done that, they could have talked about, how women or female characters, especially mythical creatures, always have to be sexy.
Yeah.
They always have to be attractive. They can't have a gory or ferocious or uncomfortable or ugly counterpart. They always have to be sexy. And I thought, like, it would be kind of cool is like, okay, why does Chuck look so fucking scary when she's, like, normal?
Yeah.
Why
especially because so many, like, actually gross and disgusting, like, monster creatures, people want to fuck them. So it's like,
they do.
If you just made her gross, people would still think she was sexy.
Right, they just put a pair of fake tits. It's like, it kind of reminds me of, like, images where skeletons will have bone boobs put onto them just to distinguish them from other male skeletons.
Yes.
So, I mean, that was, like, a little nitpicky, and I thought that part could be funny if they actually addressed that she looked relatively normal, but they didn't, so I was like, that's kind of lame.
No, I don't think they were aware of that at all.
It would have been really cool visually to see a lady Man Bear Pig.
Yes.
Pig Bear Girl,
Yes.
That'd be cool. Chuck, though, I couldn't, at first, because of the way his mouth was animated, it looked like it was a costumed character. There would be times where the mouth would move, but the upper teeth that protrude out would be stoic, while the rest of his mouth moved. So I was like, is this a costumed character? And that's just actually what Chuck is. It's just a regular kid that just shits on the ground and walks on hind legs. But I do kind of like, one thing about Chuck, besides his Vienna sausage penis just sticking out all the time, it's kind of funny that every time people see it for the first time, they go like, "What the fuck is that?" And they don't explain it further. It's just basically like, "What the fuck is that?"
Yeah.
But no. So we get a little bit more Man Bear Pig lore. It didn't feel shoehorned in, which, I mean, I'm not one of those people who gets offended by environmental messages. Okay, we're not mysterious Mr. Enter over here. But no, it just worked in the story really well. So I guess the way to make me laugh is just have Man Bear Pig.
I know. They always use him so well.
He is utilized beautifully. But what are some of the other notes that you have for this episode?
Well, this episode starts with, I guess, Randy waking up after going nuclear Karen in the last one. And I liked when, I think it was the cop, the South Park cop, was explaining it to him, of like, oh, it's like, it's all on the internet, everyone's watching it. And I just love that Randy was, like, more embarrassed of that than he actually was of his, like, bad behavior. I was like, that's very Karen of him.
That is very Karen of him, which I guess leads into my favorite part of part 2, Randy acknowledging, like, what the hell, I used to be a geologist. I could help save this. Like, remember when I used to, just be cool shit, and he would watch home videos of earlier episodes, like Volcano. It would bring it back. So I felt incredibly seen. This was the scene where I was like, do Matt and Trey actually watch Podcasa Bonita? Because I feel like we brought up these exact points. But I know we're not the only ones where it's like, damn, I kind of miss the old Randy. So we got the old Randy back for a good while. Where it's like, I'm sorry for taking over all the plot lines. And
I did love his thing where he was, like, telling characters, like, I'm sorry about the whole weed thing. Like,
exactly.
And they're
I'm
like,
sorry about the whole
I know.
thing.
And they're like, they're like, it's okay, Randy. And, like, me watching it, I'm like, it's not okay, but I appreciate the apology.
I appreciate the gesture. So, no, we also had the song Comeback Randy,
which I liked.
that was really fun, you know.
And I did like in the end that Randy ended up having to use his Karen powers for good, which I did see coming, just because I was like, why would they bring up this Karen thing if it just didn't go anywhere? But
it actually really went somewhere. Mm-hmm. I thought that, again, we'll kind of go back to PP's plot line, where, you know, the one joke that I was kind of like, rolled my eyes at a few times was all the commercials with the celebrities for PP Plus. I felt like there were like too many. There were just a few of them. I was like, all right, we cut to another one and another one. Okay, great. But I do appreciate that it did call out certain celebrities for getting in crypto, which is like, that's just, it's like, you sellouts.
Yeah, I mean,
That's unforgivable.
The commercials were kind of a lot, but they always made up for it by being like, Matt Damon is in, are you Rin? that part was so funny.
And then, like, okay, you guys did cryptocurrency, you already sold out, you know, when they're playing in piss.
Yeah, you might as well sell P now, yeah.
And then the directions, you know, when they're filming the commercial, where he's just like, it's just splash little Reese with the little bit of pee. Now, Larry David, you take some pee in your mouth and you spit it onto Reese. Spit it onto Gwen.
Okay, can we talk about Cartman in this episode? His major jump in, like, rationality, where he thinks now that for some reason Tolkien is fucking his mom.
And that he actually, like, cares about his mom in the first place.
I know, but, like, I think one of my favorite Cartman lines here and maybe ever is when he goes, and this whole thing stinks like your wiener after fucking my mom. I'm like, that is incredible. I'm gonna say that now.
Oh, please don't. You'll get fired.
Yeah. I'll only say it around you.
Oh, okay. I appreciate the exclusivity.
Another, like, small little details that I noticed. I liked that when they're infiltrating the water park, Tolkien and Butters' like code names are Black Hawk and Brown Eye. That was really funny.
I forgot about that. Oh, I found like the little jokes really, really funny. Where, you know, they're walking through the water park and Cartman's just constantly like, "Quit staring at my fucking tits."
Yeah. I also liked...
Oh my god. And it's so funny because, like, that's the whole reason he just wanted that effect for his mom.
Right,
you know?
right.
The irony there, where we have to explain the joke.
I liked in this episode they had a whole running gag of puns talking about, like, a presentation deck versus your dick. And I think that they did that really good. That was so funny every time. I was very happy that Tolkien's dad lived. I thought for sure he was dead.
Oh no, I knew they wouldn't. Well, I was very hopeful that they wouldn't. You know, come on, they only have like 2 other black characters.
Right, that is true.
That aren't racial stereotypes. So
yeah, I know. I just like the show has never shied away from like killing off kind of side characters like that. So I'm just looking at Jason, that kid who got hit by the car. Remember him?
Yeah, he had been surrounded by... I'm just surprised they haven't killed off Kevin, the Star Wars kid.
Oh, right.
Kevin stole
it. They're too busy killing off Kenny to notice, so...
Yeah, exactly. No! That's a lie. They don't even bother killing off Kenny.
Right, they don't even do that anymore.
Last good Kenny thing we got was Mysterion.
Ugh, I miss Mysterion.
God, I miss those. You know what's kind of funny? When I was watching these 2 parts, I wasn't even thinking about future episodes for content. I was thinking about another video game.
Oh, yeah?
Surrounded by this kind of content. Because I genuinely, I've played both Stick of Truth and The Fractured Butthole religiously. Multiple times because I love it. You know, I'm not a gamer. I'm far from it. I find a lot of video games too overstimulating, so I don't particularly like them. But I love those 2 games. I love the lore as a fan, and I think the gameplay is really inviting even to non-gamers like myself. So when I was watching this, you know, it kind of made me want more video game content from them.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if They started doing more of that stuff. Because they seem to really, as hard as it was, they seem to really enjoy making the games.
Oh, yeah. Well, I enjoyed it as a fan, and that's what they should want to do. Please me, a random person that they've never met, who's as old as the show they've been working on. So, you know. But, no, I think overall, this is funny. I thought that the resolve, the saline resolve, it was dumb, but it fit itself. You know, it tied everything back up together.
Yeah.
I kind of love the part where Carbon just goes like, Mr. Marsh, where Randy's just groping.
Oh, yeah.
I wonder how hard they had to work to get that approved.
Oh, my God. I forgot about that.
But, yeah, no, all the saline, it's like, we got Matt Damon to tell all these women with fake implants to have the saline push it, but... Right,
I guess Matt Damon kind of redeemed himself at the end.
Yeah, there we go. So, and I loved the final piece, saying, oh, wait, if that's Man Bear Pig's kid and that's going to grow up to be Man Bear Pig, shouldn't we, kill it? And it's like, no, we should teach it in a better direction. And then Randy's just like, oh, fuck that. That's going to take too much work.
Yeah.
We have water for the summer.
Oh, totally.
I mean, they did that before in the episode with Immigrants from Time.
Oh, yeah.
The episode, but I think it was season 8, where it's like, you know what? Or making a better future, and then Stan's like, you know what? This is gay. Randy actually pulled a Stan this time.
Yeah, totally. It's funny.
But and overall, I remember texting Rachel right after we were finished with this and saying, holy crap, I really loved this. I'm so happy. It's I think the best South Park content that we've seen in a while.
Yeah, I agree. I really, really thoroughly enjoyed myself watching both of these parts. And I'm really excited for season 26, which I think is airing in the fall, because I know we just had last season this spring, so I don't know.
God, has it really been that fucking long?
Mm-hmm. Well, they only did 6 episodes this season, so maybe that's why.
Damn. Well, I'm excited because shortly before we started recording, we're actually recording the day before the 25th anniversary concert is premiering on Comedy Central, so we want to do a little review on that coming up pretty soon. Hopefully it's good. We haven't even watched it yet. The clips that I've seen, I'm so pumped for, and I'm also, a little more than devastated that we didn't end up getting to go.
I know. It looks so fun, though, but and Trey seem like they're having a great time. I love these songs. I
know. I would love for them to, actually tour.
God.
People... I know. The thing is, they're not the kind of personalities to do that.
But people would go. Absolutely.
Oh, absolutely they would go. We'd be I'd shell out front row seats, for that shit. Yeah, but, no, it's really cool that Comedy Central wants to televise it, too, so that's even better.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm not surprised, because Matt and Trey, made Comedy Central. That's not an exaggeration.
That's what's really, kind of keeping them on the map, is that, it's funny, 2 of my favorite shows came from Comedy Central, but some of my least favorite things ever put on television also came from
Right, yeah.
I have South Park and Reno 911, and and then Comedy Central dropped Reno 911 like a hot fucking pocket. So, I'll get my beef with Comedy Central later on. I have a friend who's a writer, and they rejected their pilot. So.
Oh.
Okay, Comedy Central can't have taste all the time.
Well, in order to win, sometimes you have to lose.
You gotta lose. But we did not lose with this series of episodes. I really think, if you haven't caught up with South Park in a while, which I can understand. Just a while ago, we were I kind of wish, we were both saying, I kind of wish South Park would end in a way. It's a bittersweet thing to say, but this gives me a lot more hope. I was skeptical of the Paramount Plus merger at first, but I feel like it's provided us with a lot of really good content.
Yeah, I feel like they've definitely... I don't know. I don't even know if I want to say they're back, but I think that they're definitely on an upswing right now. Like they seem like they're enjoying themselves, which is always good because that makes good episodes.
Yeah, when they enjoy themselves. I mean, I think a little bit of torture has to happen for them for the episodes to be really good. But
I read an interview recently though that like with Matt and Trey, them saying like because of like working from home and doing the hour-long episodes, like now when they work on the seasons, like the half-hour episodes seem so short to them. Like
yeah. Exactly. So, I would love to see, I'm excited for more content. That's kind of been a while since I've said I was excited to see the South Park content and not, nervous about it.
Right, and especially the fact that they seem to be kind of self-aware about the flaws of the last few seasons, like the whole Randy thing, and then this featuring like Stan and Tolkien and Cartman more. So I appreciated that.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what the next season brings because everything kind of had its purpose. I felt like I got a genuine South Park experience despite all the changes that have happened.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I'm really excited to see what happens in the future. But again, thank you guys for listening, all three of you. We will accept PayPal, any kind of form of payment for your subscription here.
Yeah, Matt, Trey, we know you're listening. We know you're loaded.
Come on, I'm expecting shares for all the help that we've clearly given you.
Well, I had a good time catching up with South Park and with you guys.
Oh, we did, and again, send us in some questions, everything. Give us some commentary. I'd love to hear opinions on what you guys thought about this episode. If you didn't like it, that's okay. You can have poor taste. No, I would love, because I can totally see this kind of stuff being very polarizing to dedicated South Park fans.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure I wouldn't be surprised if somebody in our position ended up not liking this, but we did, and I'm very happy and relieved to say that. So I was, thank you guys again for listening as always, and hopefully we'll be back relatively, soon meaning maybe, not another year later.
Yeah. All right, bye guys.